I believe we have three great enemies that prevent us from advancing our lives, from actualizing our potential, from living our dreams. The first of these great enemies is doubt. We doubt whether or not we're capable, we doubt whether or not we're worthy, we doubt whether or not we'll succeed, we doubt whether or not we even deserve it. It's so unfortunate. I think doubt is one of the greatest enemies of our lives. It's so easy to overcome, but most people won't practice the discipline of overcoming it. They say, "I'm so doubtful," and they stop. My question is, if you have any negative recurring emotion in your life, doesn't maturity require you to face it and say, "Hey, how do I fix this?" If you're always so doubtful, then you can't just wander around saying, "I'm so doubtful," like some kind of victim. That's not fair to the humanity that you've been given. It's a power of free will that says, hey, you know what? You can direct your consciousness. That's why you have this big prefrontal cortex. Other animals can't. You can. Handle it. If you've been plagued with doubt your whole life, then face it. Stop running from it. I know that sounds hard to say to people, but I had the same story. I was so doubtful that people would even care about what I had to say. I was so doubtful that people would even want to read what I wrote or listen to me. I was so doubtful that I could chase my own dreams, but then I realized, for what reason am I doubtful? Because of past failures in this space? No, I'm trying something new. Because people told me I might not be able to do it? So what makes them an expert on my capabilities? I thought, why am I so doubtful? We're doubtful because of the germ of fear that's spread in our body because somebody planted it there one time or another, or we cultivated it with our own thoughts. At some point, maturity says, if doubt has been plaguing you, let's have a look at it. Let's realize how you can banish it. Every single thing that we know, from spirituality, from the great writers, from philosophy, from the great texts of human culture say, where there is doubt, grant me faith. We have to have faith, and faith does not mean the absence of doubt. In fact, the very definition of faith realizes that doubt is still there. You can't have faith unless there's some part of you that says, I'm going to go anyway, despite the doubt. So I'm not saying we have to get rid of doubt forever and handle it. What I'm saying is that doubt should never prevent you from advancing when you feel like advancing. Trust in your own mind. Say to yourself, I must trust in my abilities. I must trust that I will figure it out. I must trust that I can build it. I must trust that I can get some help and progress, even though the doubt might be there. Look, the hero is a hero because the hero does it anyway. Even though the hero is terrified and risking it all, he goes anyway. We're all heroes in some way. We can all be courageous. I also think society overblows courage. Society says courage has to be some big, magnificent act, but it's not. Courage in this world is just having the belief in yourself and the ability to genuinely express who you are. If you're doubting yourself, the only way through is to give yourself more faith and take more action. With more faith and more action comes more competence. With more competence comes more confidence. In psychology, they call it the competence-confidence loop. The more you learn and try, the more you master and develop. So go out there. Even with that, yes, let that doubt be there, but do it anyway. The second great enemy we have is delay. I think delay is one of our great challenges. Delay just doesn't come from doubt, though they're related. If I'm doubtful, I'm more likely to delay. But a lot of people delay because they're lazy, or because they have competing priorities. There's a part of us where we don't go after what we want, just because there's a new TV show on that we want to watch. We might spend 4 hours a night watching TV. That's indolence. That's not ignorance. Delay is just sitting around and saying, I'll get to it tomorrow. Thing is, you probably won't. Most people awake with a dream in their mind, but let that dream die in the daylight. They have the dream at night and it dies in the day because they take no action towards it, because they're fooling themselves that maybe someday they'll get to it. No one wants to be the person who ends up at the end of their life regretful because they never began what they wanted to. What are you waiting for? What have you been delaying for way too long that you know you need to get to? Maybe today is the day where you put your feet on the ground and say, I'm going to begin this. The only way through delay is action, and lots of it. The third great enemy is division. What I mean is that we feel divided. We feel different from other people. We feel like there's this great divide between us. There's this chasm that we can't cross between us and other human beings. You can recognize the kind of person who's suffering from division is they're constantly spewing hate. They have a belief that others can't understand them. They keep saying, well, others can't understand me. It protects them and keeps them from connecting with other people. Because those elements of ourselves and our beliefs about other people divide us from humanity, guess what we do? We don't ask for help. We think, they can't understand me, so I'm not going to ask for help. Guess what we do? We judge other people. We become critical of other people. We push away other people and stop being kind and respectful to other people. That's division. That part of us that believes that we are separate from others, that forgets about the reality that humanity is really united by a common energy, a common force, by at least a common purpose to thrive and survive. If we forget this, then life loses its color. We are no longer connected to other human beings. We can no longer be connected to ourselves. We can no longer be connected to our God, the Creator. Division is that sense within us that we are separate. This prevents us from getting ahead. So what can we do? All we can do is take action. The only way to get over the divisiveness between us and another person is to go and be kind, to go and say something, to be explicit, to ask, to put ourselves into play with other human beings in ways that we build magnificent relationships, that we build real connections that are meaningful and deep again. All these things, doubt, delay, and division, can be overcome. We just have to learn to recognize them. The first step is always awareness. What have you been doubting in your life that's preventing you from moving ahead? What have you been delaying in your life that's preventing you from moving ahead? How have you been perceiving other people that has been preventing you from developing relationships and moving ahead? When you start to see these things, then you can break through them. It's only within that deep desire within yourself to have faith, to take action, to become your highest self and overcome the very things that are limiting you. That's what makes us great. That's the great shine of becoming a mature, conscious human being. So I say, why not make this day the day that we redesign our lives so that doubt, delay, and division are handled by faith, action, and love.